Good morning, everybody. My name's Dave Baldwin. I'm here with Dan Scala, the proprietor for the Center for Excellence, and Maritn Brossman, a success coach and social media expert. And we're doing a series on how to start a business. So this is intended for any of you out there who are maybe considering starting your own business, have thought about it in the past. Maybe you've already started a business and you're trying to figure out how to get it off the ground. Or perhaps if you have an established business that you want to take to the next level, we want to have a little bit of a discussion here about what are some of the fundamental challenges that small business owners face. So we're going to dive right into it, but before we do that, I would just want to have any brief introductions. Dan and Maritn, do you want to say a little bit about yourselves just to get this started?
Yes, I'm Dan Scala. I've been at the Center for Excellence now for 5 years, been in Raleigh for 32 years, been out on my own, running my own businesses for 22 years. So I've run about 12 different businesses. So I feel like I've got some experience-based successes and failures that I can use to bring to the table to help others who are considering it.
Excellent. And myself, I've been self-employed since I left IBM in 1995. I got on LinkedIn in 2004, wrote several books on social media, and taught statewide since 2006, and offer the social media management certificate program with Karen Teedy at State. And then I offer B2B sales professionals linking into sales. Let me get it right with Greg Heyer,
There you go.
leading social selling podcast. So that's it.
Excellent.
All right, so let's go ahead and dig into this thing. And today we're going to talk about before you start a business. For those of you that are considering whether or not it's time to start a business or how to go about those earlier stages of it. So the first question I have for both of you, we'll go one at a time here, is how does somebody decide if right now is the best time to start a business, if they're ready, or if it's better to wait or prepare or maybe put it off till a little bit later? What are your thoughts on that?
Basically, the first thought that comes to mind is it goes back to when's the best time to prune your flowers. It's whenever you have the shears in your hand. What I really mean by that and how it carries over to this is if you find yourself asking yourself this question of should I start a business or not, it means that you're either looking for a new opportunity or you need to make some income, or most likely both. And with those things pressing on you, or you asking yourself that question, then you have to obviously ask yourself the next two logical questions are, okay, can I go to work for somebody else in a career? And if you can, you may choose to do that. If that is not a realistic option, and we know in today's times it's even tougher to get on with a career, then you may have to consider going into business on your own. And so but there's a big process. There's a process involved there. We got to go through several steps to say, hey, am I really cut out for this, or how do I do it? And when I do it, how do I do it successfully?
My answer is find some small examples of how to get going fast. Many times you can set up a separate personal checking account out of a bank. Keep the money separate. I mean, if you set up an eBay and sell a few things and just start managing it like a business, you got to get on the court quickly. I mean, I've had friends that even gotten skills with some network marketing, but they managed it well in the beginning to start to run it, because it's a different way of operating in the world than if you're an employee. And I think it makes you a better employee as well. I was speaking to about 300 job seekers, and they were all looking for jobs, and I realized they're all unemployed, and so am I. I'm self-employed.
Right.
And I think everyone should wake up each morning and go, if I was self-employed, how would I manage my day? Just start developing the behaviors versus an hourly person. And that's it. Start building those frameworks, because it's a whole different way when you wake up and you're in charge of everything.
Yeah, and you make an excellent point. You don't have to go through 2 semesters or 13 classes to become qualified or certified to do this. You can think in your own mind, hey, what are my basic skills, and how do I add value to the world, and as well as something someone will pay for.
Yeah.
And you can go out there each day and try to make headway, talk to someone who is a potential customer or client, and start. That's how I started my first business. Was I knew my skill set, thought about it for a little bit, figured out who might be a potential customer, and then just started calling on them until I started making some sales and started the income stream coming in.
When I was working for IBM, I was trying to figure out what is the career path to be in. And then I was also thinking of, oh, I've gotten into IBM, I am someone. And I realized, no, I'm the same person. So it's moving from I'll be someone one day to who am I saying I am, and then how am I moving forward with this in my own business.
Yeah,
and
I
this
really
is
like
a philosophical concept that is to me a radical change, because every moment is money. Time is money.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let me ask a follow-up question to this. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out there I've personally met that are in current jobs that are paying well, good paychecks, but they're not necessarily content with that and have entertained the thought of maybe I should leave this job and go start a business. And the question I have for you two is, how do you decide when it's time to actually make that jump? Because obviously if you've got a family to take care of, you've got bills to pay, and you've got a steady stream of income, sometimes it's a bad idea to let go of that, but there comes a point when you have to make that jump. And I think a lot of folks may have a struggle identifying when's the appropriate time to do that. So you guys have any thoughts on that?
My first thought is, because I've had people ask me this before, and basically what I share with them is, you will know when the time is right. And by that I mean, when your compelling desire for something new is in front of you and you see the way you can earn income doing that, then and that can replace your current income that you have through your career path, then you know you're getting warmed up and getting ready for the time to pull the trigger. That's not to say you just do it like that. It usually is a thought process that you go through mentally of, hey, I've got this new shtick or this new passion that I want to pursue. Let me prepare for it. Being a good Boy Scout, you have to do some preparation and lay down some roots so that your confidence has grown to the point where you know that you can replace your income if you leave your existing employment.
For me, it is real important that you've got the basic bills covered, if you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what happens is I've seen a number of people that said, I'm just going to have faith and jump and it will occur. And that's like saying, I'm going to jump off the mountain and a parachute will show up. I'm big on intelligent, calculated risk, not
Absolutely.
Recklessness.
Absolutely.
Because the universe seems to respond well to intelligent, calculated risk.
Yes.
And it gets out of the way and lets you hit the ground for just reckless risk. So one of the things to me is, when's the right time is, the ideal for me is getting to the point where you can't afford to stay at the other job anymore because this new one's building so much more revenue. That's the ideal. And now yours was, I got to feed my family. I can't find a job. Let's go make money.
Right.
I mean, that was your story.
That's right.
That's another one.
Yeah.
But you were extremely motivated. What does it take to bring in money and make it happen? And the biggest thing is, the biggest barriers they're going to meet is, I'm just not like this. And you got to get over. I think entrepreneurs should have a bumper sticker that says, be anything but yourself, because most of our self-limiting concepts of ourself is what's getting in the way.
Yes.
And you need to be willing to break through those every time.
Yes.
Now, you also want to be in your best fit. I'm better out in meeting people and connecting to them, like in the social media. Karen's better in working in the background and building excellent structure. So you've got to treat yourself like a product and find out where's the highest return on investment in the business of me to be as well. So those are a few ideas with it.
Okay. The other thing I want to make sure we touch on here today is, when somebody's got an idea for a business. Okay, so let's say there's two parallel considerations that are going through a lot of people's minds is, okay, am I ready to start a business? But also there's my idea for a business. Is this the right idea? Is this actually a viable idea that I could make money at? Or do I need to go back to the drawing board? I think that's a consideration a lot of entrepreneurs are constantly facing and dealing with. So let's talk a little bit about how do you vet an idea for a business and determine if that's viable or not?
I want to give some advice I got from my attorney when I left IBM. I thought all these suggestions I gave IBM, what if I want to implement myself? And he sat down with me. He said, Martin, let me tell you something. Ideas are a dime a dozen. You need to stop undervaluing your idea. The person who has the guts and courage to take it to the market's the winner.
That's right. Executor.
So, you know, everyone thought of the pet rock, but only a few people put their life on the line to make it happen. And that was really unpleasant knowledge to learn. And I meet people every day in my classes, not every day, but on a regular basis, where I've got this killer idea and so forth, and go, look, if you don't have the fortitude, resources, and relentlessness to say, what does it take to go to market, your idea means nothing. Yes. So I'm going to boldly say, yes, you protect your ideas. Yes, they are. But unless you're willing to ask the question, what does it take and how uncomfortable am I willing to be to get it out there, then your idea isn't as wonderful as you think it is. So
and you make a very good point. The idea itself is only out of $1. The new idea, they're dime a dozen.
Yeah,
it's worth about a nickel. The execution or the action on that idea is where the 95 cents is.
Yeah,
and running into a lot of people that have ideas. To me, what I try to do is channel them around or get their thought process going about how will this interact in the marketplace? Will this idea fly? In other words, if you have a product or service, will the marketplace accept it, buy it, pay for it, pay you more for it than what you got to spend to get it there so that you can make a profit, therefore you have a business. So that comes down into due diligence. Is every idea has to be vetted through a process of due diligence. And one thing we really haven't touched on yet, but I think is paramount here, is you don't have to do this all inside your own head. Even though you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you need to set up a collaborative team around you. Mm-hmm. And also, if you have an idea, to me, what I like to do, or what I've done in the past, is I'll take that idea to someone who has done something very similar and has done it successfully and ask them to be my mentor or help give me guidance through the process so that it'll jumpstart me to avoid some of the pitfalls.
So I've got to follow on. I like what you both said about this. I mean, ideas are a dime a dozen. They have to be vetted, but I want to respond to what you said, Martin, about you can have a great idea, but if you don't have the fortitude and the willingness to get uncomfortable and take that to the marketplace, you could have a great idea and it'll still fail. So the question I have is, let's say if there's folks out there that don't honestly have that level of emotional fortitude, but have the desire to start a business, what do you have to do in order to develop that emotional fortitude? Can you develop it?
No, I think all can do it. I think some people need to get a bigger carrot and some people need to create a fear. Some are motivated by moving away from and some towards. We've talked about this in my coaching call with Elise. And so you got to get what's going to get you on fire with this to move forward, to make the effort needed to do it. And we all have our methods. Some have to set up structures so they have something at risk. Some need to pay a coach to have enough at risk to move into action. Mm-hmm. So that's, to me, is what needs to get you going. So you're not asking, can I? You're asking, what does it take to make this happen? And Dan, I want to just say, with the angel investors, someone could have built something out of popsicle sticks and glue and silly putty, and if it's put together enough, you go, son of a gun, there's something in here. You give it attention. So I love the thermos, the coffee thing. Yeah. It might not have looked real pretty at the beginning, but he had fortitude.
He did.
And
he did.
He just kept whacking away.
Yep. He had the patience and persistence to make it happen.
And this can be developed. Yes. I don't think everyone. I'm not big on you have to have. I think courage is built by calculated risk over time. I don't think it's something you're born with, and I think some have more of an aptitude to it. But it's, if you aren't taking micro or small risks, just like Toastmasters, that's a risk you're in, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting in front of people. That's to me the muscle to develop, the ability to be in front of someone that tells you, I think you're nuts, and go, thank you very much. Do you have any other opinions? And we've built a wall of our society is so sensitive that we're doing some disjustice to our youth having the fortitude to make something happen.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I think the courage and fortitude are important elements. I also see, like you've been in your own business, I've been in mine. We each have families. They need to eat on a regular basis. So I think what boils up is there, at least from my perspective, the fear of failure and knowing that failure was not an option. In other words, I had a family out there that I had to support. So it was up to me to figure out the how and just go after it as strongly as I could. So that was my internal motivator that clicked inside of me and said, hey, they're depending on you to pay the bills and put food on the table. So it became a mindset. And I know a lot of friends of mine that are in that successful rank of entrepreneurs, and failure is not an option to them. It's something that, hey, they may have 1 day or 2 day failures, but in the long haul, they know they're going to win. They're going to cross that goal line.
Yeah, one of the things that reminded me when you said about the micro risks is Jim Collins in his book, Great by Choice. He talks about this concept called firing bullets before you fire cannonballs. And at the end of the chapter, he says there's 3 fundamental challenges that you have to decide what's the biggest challenge for you. He said you have to have either the discipline to actually fire more bullets because you take no risks and you just have thought experiments all day. That doesn't get you any data.
Right.
There's the discipline to finally decide to make the decision to fire a cannonball once you've fired enough bullets,
Right.
or the decision to not fire cannonballs first without firing any bullets. It's like in some people, everybody struggles with one of those 3 disciplines, and you have to identify, according to what Colin said, which one is the biggest hang up for you. So I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying right there.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think that's real important to understand with it, and I think discipline is a function of practice and structure more than something innately in people. I mean, I've talked to some wonderful veterans, and they go, part of the reason I charged into the bullets is because of the practice, the drilling over and over. So I think willing to be able to put yourself in the calculated risk position over and over.
Yes.
I for years, I would answer the phone with telemarketers, and I'd practice. I had a problem saying no. So I'd practice saying no to telemarketers. And I'd go, no, I don't want the $1 million. Then I'd stay on the phone, and they'd do their next pitch. And I go, no, I still don't want $1 million. And it was a simple task I could practice with telemarketers, to practice saying no. And there are a lot of people that can't handle conflict because they haven't practiced it enough. Oh my gosh, you just took one of the most important tools in being an entrepreneur away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to get back briefly to looking at a business idea itself. And I definitely think there's a lot of value to what you're saying here. At the same time, I want to make sure we address the one critical question about there are some ideas that are more viable than others inherently when I just look at the idea, regardless of what level of emotional fortitude somebody might bring to the table. So I just wanted to ask you guys, can you say a little bit more on the subject of, if I'm just looking at a business idea, how do I really decide if this, are there any criteria I can look at to determine the viability of an idea itself? Like what's absolutely essential to really say this is something worth pursuing, I guess.
Good. I'm going to hit you're connecting people to money with it, so it better be a good screened idea.
My best thought on that is to take that idea and bounce it off of 3 to 6 people that like, and trust, that will tell you that they won't pat over it and say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. They will give you the straight scoop on what they honestly believe. In other words, it's a quick reach out to the potential marketplace so that you can vet your idea at first with family and friends, so to speak, or people in the industry. So I would pick a half a dozen to a dozen people and bounce it off of them and get their intake on it to use as a first level, what I'll call a first level assessment for that idea.
I'm going to add also, then if you really believe in it, you need to figure out how can I get a test in the least expensive way
Exactly.
to
Yes.
prove that they're right or wrong.
Yep.
So if it's really that, well, how do we get something we can throw on the wall to see if it sticks a little bit with the least amount of expense and resources? That's the next thing. So
Yes.
it's how, you go, look, I know it's here. I know I'm not explaining it well, but this will be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, well, then you need to do some more work to build that up. You need to be able to convince them of it. So that's it. And to reference the small business center directors that I work with around the state, and that's one free resource we'll mention. And they're, one of their jobs that they don't get credit for is help people save their mortgages, so they don't launch into something that isn't viable enough to make money. So that's my other piece of it. I love yours, but also you really believe in it. Okay, how can we do a test?
Yeah, there's several steps.
Yeah,
I think
because
that's what we're trying
will
to do.
someone take their wallet out and give you money
That's
for
right.
going, that's cool, I'd buy that.
Yep.
There's a whole different thing between that's cool, I'd buy that, and me taking this simple action.
That's right.
Get my wallet out. And that's what we're
vote.
trying to test.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dollars vote.
So the last question I have here before we wrap up is, do you think that somebody who's in a position of thinking about starting a business should go and spend money on training programs or formal education before they start? Or do you think you can start a business without formal education and training?
Well, first I'd capitalize on things that are free, and there are a number of them. We know free or affordable to start with. I mean, everything from, Dan, you offer a lot of stuff here that people could take advantage of. SCORE's a good group. The small business centers of North Carolina that can be found. We'll put the link in there. Bill Davis has something that, even though it's a little more advanced, you could show up. So yeah, get yourself on the court, take some courses and work with them, but have something at stake. Don't just be, I see too many aiming without taking risk. If you can find a way to take a small risk early, that's why something like, I've met people who built their business skills on selling something on eBay. They function their life enough to get it in a box and showing up. Can you do that? So find some method where there's something at stake and you have a chance to succeed or fail at it. And then if you fail, learn, like Pat Howlett would say, fail fast and learn from it. I'm the advocate of, it's okay to fail. It's not okay to call it something fluffy. It's okay to then learn from it and move on. I've done the old route of everything is positive, and then you miss the giant gaping holes in the middle of the road that tear your tire off.
Yes.
So that's my answer.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm a great believer in bootstrapping. In other words, start with the minimum cost. I'm also a great believer in doing what I call a parallel path. Like when I left corporate America, I had an idea for a business. So I started that day, that week, going out trying to implement that or establish that as a business. At the same time, I went to Council for Entrepreneur Development, CED, and I enrolled in their course and their class. So that gave me the framework of all the things I needed to do, put me around 12 other people starting businesses so that I could, so one didn't slow down the other, but one complemented the other. I walked down the path of creating the business, and as I was walking down that path, I wasn't doing it alone because I had this core team, a group over here that was working in the CED Fast Track program. And so that helped me immensely, was being able to walk my walk and develop my own business independently, but having a resource group over here on the side. So that was just my particular way of doing it, and it worked for me.
Okay, I think that's about all of the time we have for this first episode. So thank you guys for sharing your expertise.
Thanks for
We'll look forward
inviting
to doing some more of these as we go forward. And for those of you out in the audience, there'll be, I believe they can respond on Google if they have questions.
Comment. There's always a comment area. And Dave, I want to ask you to let people know what you do too, because we got him and me. We need to get you in the mix.
Okay. Well, right now I've got a business called yoursocialmojo.com, and it's about social media marketing solutions for businesses. Okay. And really the focus of social media is not about cats and dogs on your Facebook page. It's about dollars of revenue in your bank account.
Okay, good.
So the focus is really about helping small businesses, first of all, capitalize on their existing customer base for referrals and recommendations. but also increasing the conversion rate of prospects into paying customers by creating a top of mind system. So
Excellent.
that's my shtick.
Sounds good. We'll put the contacts and links we mentioned below. And thanks for our first episode here. We're looking to have some more and love to get your comments.
All right. Thanks, everybody.